We have a really simple vision. It's almost embarrassingly simple. It's just to create wealth. And I
How?
mean, anybody in business should be looking to do
Great.
that.
Tell me how. So get to the bit why you think this is unique in its own right. All well and good having high grades, but you're not making money. It's no good to anyone, is it? People are interested in that. People want to know, are you going to reduce your overheads? Are you going to be more profitable? What have your people, what have you done, which has created value for shareholders in the past? I'm just trying to work out what's going on up here. Why are you doing this? Why Otis? What's the problem you're trying to solve? Hello and welcome to Crux Investor. First of all, thank you very much for watching this video. If you like it, give us a thumbs up and please leave your comments below. We get back to absolutely everyone. And if you haven't already done so, please click the subscription button in the corner of the screen. If you want to see more videos like this, click the notification bell. We spoke today to Brendan Cahill, who's the president and CEO of Excellon. They're a silver producer in Mexico. Now, we talked to Brendan about this rather long in the tooth turnaround story of his in Mexico and why they've come up with a new business strategy which involves a lot of M&A. They've acquired a silver exploration play in Germany and also a development play for gold in the US. If you want to take a look at some of the topics we discussed, look in the description below, click on the relevant timestamp, that'll take you to that part of the video. In the meantime, let's hear what Brendan had to say. Hello, Brendan. How are you, sir?
Very good. How are you?
Not too bad. Not too bad. You're getting all ready for PDAC, are you?
Getting girded for it. Yeah. Great week, and definitely need some mental preparation beforehand.
Oh, I know. Did it for too many years. I am fortunate not to be going, but I wish you well. I wish you well. A lot of people there. Why don't we kick off? Give us a 1-minute overview of the company for people new to this, and we'll pick it up from there.
Okay, great. So Excellon is Mexico's highest grade silver producer. We've been in production since 2005, and we've been in Mexico since 1996. Really interesting announcement out where we're proposing the acquisition of Otis Gold, which is a company that's been active in Idaho for a number of years, and they've got two very interesting gold projects up there. The key one being the Kilgore project, which has a resource of just under 1 million ounces. It's a heap leach operation or proposition, but with a huge exploration potential. So
Okay.
very excited to talk about that today.
We will, but I want to start off a bit earlier than that because I need people to get to know you, get to know what you're capable of. Okay, you've been there 7-8 years now. What was the plan when you came in? What did you see, and what were you tasked with doing?
Yeah, so I joined in the middle of 2012, and really when I started, the company was in a turnaround phase. And that's what we were working on for a number of years. But really, to go back to the beginning, because it's really important to understand our roots, we got to Plateau around 1995, 96. And Peter McGaw, one of the world's great geologists, chief exploration officer at Mag Silver, he brought us the project. He's going through the town of Bermejillo in the state of Durango in Mexico, and he saw all these gypsum crystals in the shops. And you can see behind me that there's actually a big gypsum crystal there, which comes from the Plateau mine. Now, knowing that these crystals are really associated with carbon replacement deposits, he staked the ground, rolled it into Excellon, and we made the discovery a couple years later. So that became the highest grade silver deposit in Mexico. The first resource, 2,700 grams per ton silver, put out in 2003 or so. But nobody cared about silver back then because it was after Brix and the market was just getting turned around. It was really at the dawn of a new precious metals bull market back then. But Excellon, got the money together, put it into production in 2005, and started being a producer. The trick was that starting a very small mine on a small resource, only 60,000 tons at the time, not everything was done perfectly, right? It's kind of a story in the mining industry, trying to have the capital and the time, balancing that against your investors' interests of getting things moving, making it to cash flow. So hydrogeological testing wasn't perfected, community engagement wasn't perfected, labor engagement wasn't perfected. So when I joined, there was a series of these issues that were really coming home to roost. There was some social issues at the time, which we resolved, some labor issues, which we resolved, too much water coming into the mine. We resolved that issue in 2017 and went from there to very dry mining conditions, a great little operating mine, and that's kind of where we are today.
Okay, so you used a phrase there which was it's been a turnaround story up until about a year ago. Okay, and yeah, I mean, we've seen this scenario before where companies need to kind of shortcut the process because investor pressure on them, share price pressure on them. Okay, and are you saying to me that you were kind of fixing a few problems caused by shortcutting in the process, or just natural mining, the difficulty of mining, because mining's tough, right?
Yeah, it can be interesting, challenging at times, but yeah, I mean, it's really just dealing with the rock when you get down there, right? Dealing with changes in the jurisdiction that you're in, so you have to really take the time to understand the chronology of why things are where they are, and then putting in the changes to make things better. And the most important part, of course, which I didn't mention, was that of all the turnarounds we did, it was bringing in really an exceptional group of people, upgrading our board, upgrading our management top to bottom, and that's what really allowed us to address these challenges that we saw. And certainly, the management before me were dealing with a whole other set of challenges. Everybody in mining is always dealing with a turnaround story, right? Whether it's an exploration project, where is the discovery, or whether it's time and efficiently, or whether you're in production and then it's just a whole host of day-to-day opportunities for improvement.
Yeah, so this is the bit I find interesting. It's like sometimes there's even when things are going well, you're in the middle of a turnaround process because the market's changed. No market better demonstrates that than the silver market, which is typically and most notably quite erratic. And if I look at your share price last year, fairly erratic. You've had big highs, big lows, but you kind of ended up sort of where you started off. Was that caused by some of these legacy issues that you're talking about, or these ongoing mining issues, or the new team coming together? I mean, what was the cause of that?
I think it's actually the silver market right now is quite interesting. Particularly over the last 18 months or so. When you look at our peer group, as you said, started at A, bounced around, and then ended at A. You can look at many of even the big companies in the peer group, and they haven't kind of seen that almost stratospheric increases in share prices that many of the gold companies have seen. And when you look at silver over the course of time, that is kind of the way things go. Right now, we're at a gold-silver ratio of 89, almost 90 to 1. And the historical norm is between 55 and 65 to 1. So we're in a very challenging place for silver right now. The other aspect of silver that has been tricky over the past little while is most of us are producing a concentrate. So we're not producing doré. Some of us are, but a significant portion aren't. We're producing lead and zinc along with the silver, and treatment charges for that lead and zinc, particularly on the zinc side, have increased significantly over the past couple of years. So that's added another economic challenge to the business, and something that's affecting the entire peer group.
Right. So this brings us nicely on to the business plan. Okay. So silver company, you've got assets in Mexico, one which kind of threw me, Germany, and obviously now and we will talk about Otis in a second.
Yeah.
We will talk about Otis in a second, which is obviously gold, and you're looking at different ways to mitigate the ongoing risks involved in mining and silver mining in particular, obviously. So, and you made a point of mentioning this team that you're building up. I mean, can you give me a sort of sense of the track record of the people involved? I do want to talk about some of the shareholders in a minute, but what have you done which has created value for shareholders in the past?
That's a question my wife has asked me at times as well. I came from Davies Ward in Toronto, which was one of the preeminent M&A firms in Canada, and then I went into mining around 2008, or exploration specifically. And actually, I started at a company called Plangio Mines, which acquired the Detour Lake deposit back in the late 90s. Ingrid Hibbard was CEO. She just joined the board of Kirkland Lake, actually. And I won't go through the whole details, but an amazing transaction at the bottom of the market for $1.5 million acquiring the Detour Lake deposit. So we spun that into Detour Gold around 2007, and through a series of transactions, ended up merging part of Plangio back in with Detour. And the returns that we saw from that, I bought Palangio stock when I was a student, I think off my student loans, and at 10 cents, right? And by 2000, that was probably around 2002, and by 2011, it had returned 11,000%. So that's kind of where I came from. We went from there, that transaction, to doing a series of acquisitions in Ghana, West Africa, making a number of discoveries and seeing our return to shareholders increase further from there as well. On the rest of board and management, Ben Pollinger, our senior VP geology, was at Roxgold. He was with me at Palangio as well, so saw those returns, and then went over to Roxgold, high-grade success story in West Africa, bringing exceptional asset Yaramoko from an inferred resource through to production from 2012 to 2016. Great success story there. Anna Ladd-Kruger, our CFO, was at Kinross and then was at Trevally from the very early days, 50 million market cap, all the way through to the $1 billion deal with Glencore. So I saw huge returns for shareholders there.
Beautiful. That's great.
I could go on.
No, I just sounds like you could. So let me stop you. I think that gives us a flavor. Okay, so there's a real mixture there of finding value in the rocks, the geology. I mean, I like the Roxgold story particularly. I think it's a great business model as well. Big fan of John. You're also doing it through M&A, which is what you're doing here. So is that the plan going forward? Is the plan to gain or get shareholder value gains through acquisitions? Is that the plan? Or are you also going to be looking at the rocks?
We have a really simple vision. It's almost embarrassingly simple. It's just to create wealth, right? That's it. Create wealth.
How?
And I mean, anybody in business should be looking to do that.
Tell me how. Tell me how.
How, exactly. So, what we've got in this industry in particular, right? You really have to be involved in the entire growth pipeline, because markets change, commodities change, investor sentiment changes, access to capital changes. So we have production now. With the acquisition of Otis Gold, we have development, gold development in particular, and we have a significant exploration portfolio. And the way this portfolio, our entire portfolio or growth pipeline, is organized, we have immediate leverage to metal prices, silver, lead, and zinc. Silver being better than lead and zinc right now. We have a gold development project which has a significantly higher potential value than our producing assets. You want to be able to grow into that yet better asset. And then we have a number of exploration properties. And you need a portfolio of exploration properties because exploration is risky, right?
Yeah.
And trying to make a discovery on one property is, it's like playing high card.
No, right? I get it. We talk to companies like that all the time. But if I may, so let's come to the producing components. Do you think that they are doing enough? Are you happy with what's happening in Mexico? Are you happy with what's happening in Germany?
I'm never happy. I always want more, right? Like that's the business.
So what are you doing about it? What's happening?
So in Mexico, as I mentioned before, we had a very wet mine, too much water inflow coming into the mine. So we put in an interesting engineering solution to solve that problem, drawing the water table down in an underground mine, kind of like treating it like an open pit, creating a cone of depression around the mineralization, drying out the mine entirely. And that was, really sending in the stormtroopers, right? Fix this, take every means to fix this. And then we need to make a change. And right now, over the past 6 months or 9 months or so, we've got the optimizers in there, the plastic surgeons. So they're really working on, optimizing the mine, the normal course mining stuff that wasn't possible before. But this yields millions of dollars of cash flow when you push it and make sure that you pursue it entirely. We won't talk about Otis and Kilgore in terms of like the immediacy. But on the exploration front, we're making great strides.
Let's stay with Mexico. Let's stay with Mexico, right? So when do these stormtroopers report back to you? What are they going to be able to do in terms of the numbers, the economics around this? What's going to change?
So the stormtroopers have left the building now. But what they did was they took a mine that we were effectively mining underwater. Intensive grouting at the face, a very slow, inefficient mining process. And they've allowed normal dry mining conditions to continue going forward. And that job was done very effectively, and it's just part of our ordinary course of operations now.
So what's changed? What's changed?
So now we have to deal with like the ordinary thing of getting guys to the face faster and for longer parts of their shift. More efficient use and safe use of ground support to make sure that we can operate efficiently. Two of the challenges that we face at Plateau are high electricity costs. We pay about 12 cents a kilowatt hour, but under Mexican energy reforms, we can go into the private market and get a lot less than that, about 25% less than that. So that's an optimization that we're in the process of doing over the next couple months. Our electricity costs are very high because we're pumping a lot of water. So that's going to result in an immediate significant savings to OPEX.
Okay, like what? Give us some idea of the numbers that you think you're going to be able to get to, because people are interested in that. People want to know: are you going to reduce your overheads? Are you going to be more profitable? I mean, tell us. Yeah. What can you do?
Yeah, so certainly for the past few quarters, we've not been generating profits, not been generating cash flow, but with these optimizations, we're targeting an all-in sustaining cost of something below $15. That's really the target we want to get to.
When?
Towards the end of the year, in the second half of the year, basically where we're looking at right now.
That's still quite high, isn't it?
Silver at $18. If you look at our peer group, if you have an all-in sustaining cost under $15, you're kind of in that top 20% or so.
Wow, that high. That's amazing. Okay, so you think towards this end of the year, you're going to be able to say, we think we've got Mexico, Plateau's under control now. It's as good as it's going to get. Is that the message?
Well, Plateau, the reality is it's, we want to mine 250 up to 300 tons per day from Plateau. So it's a small mine.
Yeah.
It's the highest grade mine in Mexico. It's one of the highest grade silver mines in the world.
Yeah.
Production grades are over a kilo per ton silver equivalent. So there's very few things like that out there, but it's small. So we need to find more. We need to grow more. And that's both at Plateau and then at Evolucion, which is where our mill is, about 200 kilometers to the south. But big exploration package around that. We've made a new discovery there as well, called the Lechuza zone. So that's something we're going to move towards resource over the course of the year. Need a bit more work to kind of set it on that path. But, it's organic growth from that perspective, like identify new deposits and put them into production.
So how much money are you going to put to that? I mean, are you going to spend time, effort, money? And if so, how much to kind of...
So our exploration budget is generally around $4 to $5 million per year within our existing asset. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but it's very effectively spent money. What we're trying to do is find new things, right? So you don't want to, grid drill a greenfields project in the hopes that something might be there. We use a very scientific approach, and the way that we look at exploration is really it's research and development, right? And it's one of the things that's been lacking in the industry for a while. But for us, it's spend the money wisely, identify the target, and then bring your rigs on and start drilling something off. So down at Evolucion, we've actually done quite a bit of that over the past year, and we're ready to move that now towards a defined resource over the course of 2020.
Right, and I don't know how much cash. How much cash are you sitting on at the moment?
So as of this transaction, we'll have about 10 million in cash US.
Right.
So we're in a pretty good position.
Okay.
And with Plateau, starting to turn around over the next few months, we should be generating that sustainable cash flow for the exploration that we want to do within our Mexican portfolio.
Right. So Plateau will be break even. That's what you're telling me?
Sustainable operation.
Sustainable. Yeah. Okay. Sustainable. Okay. Cool. And towards the end of the year, moving towards more of a profitability.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. So let's move away from that. Germany. What's happening in Germany? That well-known mining district.
Actually, you'd be surprised. There's about.
Tell me.
There's over 50 underground mining operations in Germany, right? There's a huge amount of coal production in Germany, and we're actually in the state of Saxony, which is in East Germany. It's kind of in the Crux between Czech Republic and Poland. and it has a very, very long mining history. So the project that we have, it's called Silver City, or the Bronzdorf exploration license. It's about just northwest of the city of Freiburg. And this area was mined for 800 years, from the 11th century all the way through to just after the Franco-Prussian War. And Germany won the Franco-Prussian War and got a 200 million pound gold settlement from the French. And really, they dropped the silver standard, went to the gold standard, and history progressed from there. And this was one of the interesting things when I kind of was presented this project back in late 2018, was I was dismissive at first as well. Who goes to Germany, right? But I didn't know. But I did the research and I thought about it, and then I pitched it to Ben, and he said, geologically, like, we have to be here. We have to check this out. And when you understand that history, and then you've got the switch to the gold standard, you've got World War I, you've got the Weimar Republic, the Great Depression, you have World War II, and then you have this becoming part of the USSR effectively, or the Soviet Empire, right? Which was not focused on the capitalist metals of silver. It was focused on lead and zinc and tin and coal. So that was really what was explored for here, and silver was forgotten about.
I get the history. I understand the history of Germany and Europe around that time. Today, coal is not in favor in Germany. It's a very green, liberal country these days. So, how is mining in Germany for you? I mean, do you come across problems, protests, any issues with regulation, law?
Well, we've only been there on the project since the fall of 2019. So really, we signed an option agreement on this asset back in September. But the integration with the community and with the institutions there, and with the regulators there, has been quite impressive. And one of the things is the impression of mining in Germany and exploration in Germany. Brussels and Germany, Berlin, actually founded an institute called the Helmholtz Institute there in 2011. And this was, if we go back to 2011, I'm obsessed with history and the chronology of why things are, right? That's why, sorry for going through the whole history of the 20th century, but it is, there you go, right? So it is like so critical that you understand the history, or you miss opportunities, right? You think, well, somebody else would have done this. How is this opportunity mine? Somebody else would have done this. And then you reel back the history and you're like, there is a huge opportunity here. So Germany, 2011, if we go back to 2011, silver's at $50, gold's at $1,900. You've got rare earth metals absolutely ripping. You're coming off, nickel highs, copper highs. So Germany recognized that they needed to start controlling strategic metals, which is a very topical, aspect now. Rare earths are still an issue. In Canada, the Mining Association of Canada is looking at strategic metals review. So Germany recognized this in 2011, created this Helmholtz Institute to further exploration, development, production with high technologies in Germany. The great thing is Ben Pollinger, our senior VP geology, his former professor is actually the head of this Helmholtz Institute. There's this weird serendipity or synchronicity that's kind of happening with us going to this project. That institute is in Freiburg because Freiburg also has one of the oldest mining and metallurgical universities in the world, the University of Freiburg. So if you go around the world, you come across geologists all the time. I did an exchange there. I went to school there. I've been underground there, in the old workings under the town. So that's the kind of thing that we're drawing on. We've got a high technology institute from drones to core scan technology to a met lab that they're developing right now. Loads of PhD students who've been crawling over this ground, looking at the opportunity for years now, writing their dissertations on it. We get the benefit of all that research, and yet there's been no modern day exploration. There's never been a drill hole for precious metals on this project.
So tell me what you've got. So that thank you for that. That actually in education, I've learned something that's good. But tell me what you've got. What do you know about what you've got in Germany?
So the concession that we have, or the exploration license we have, we call it Silver City, the Silver City property. And people are like, why Silver City? That's not a German name. But Freiburg, the nickname for Freiburg it's Silberstadt, which forgive my pronunciation, but Silver City. Yeah. So it was a pretty easy branding exercise when I saw Silberstadt, and I'm like, well, there we go, we're good. So there is that long history of mining, certainly. But what we have is 164 square kilometers with 35 kilometers of strike. And a number of veins running through that property along this strike, and loads of historical underground workings. So our concession was mined for, on and off, continuously for almost 800 years. We have all the records of that mining as well, or most of them anyways.
Right.
So we know where the workings were, we know how deep they went and what they were mining. And some of the grades that they were seeing there, up to 3,500 grams silver, excluding other metals, and there was definitely lead, zinc, and gold as well, and up to 10 meters widths. So we know where they stopped, and it's a really simple, as far as geology and exploration are ever simple, is to know where they stopped, understand where the system is, using all this information that's being generated by one of the top mining universities in the world, and set the rigs down and start drilling the deeper part of this epithermal system.
Let's talk numbers. Okay, so I'm going to assume that you wanted to mitigate country risk from Mexico into another jurisdiction, and you came across something which you thought might fit that bill. Okay, I'm gonna assume that. No. You thought this was hit it out of the park.
I mean, I had the same impression as you, right? Like Germany, like how it, that's kind of an asymmetrical assessment of improved country risk, right?
Yeah.
So it was really, we were looking around the world for high grade exploration opportunities that could deliver results very, very quickly, as far as you can never have that expectation. And this really fit the bill. It wasn't until we got over there and did our work and diligence long before signing the option agreement that we realized this was actually a special opportunity. A regulator that was very much in support of bringing exploration back to Saxony, with a huge amount of wealth and talent to support that kind of reinvigoration of this region. But even to say reinvigoration is a little bit of a misnomer, because we're not the first guys there. We're not the only guys there. There's loads of exploration down in the south on the Erzgebirge. Again, forgive my pronunciation, but the Ore Mountains, which were mined for hundreds of years through the Middle Ages. Up to the northwest, there's the Kieperschleifen, which I never pronounced properly, one of the world's great copper mines, and the big coal mines along the north part of Saxony.
Okay, so
over the border to Poland, billion-ounce silver deposits as well.
So get to the bit why you think this is unique in its own right. It sounds like you'd be proud to have this in your own right, but that is surely the definition of risk mitigation. You've got Mexico, you've got another jurisdiction, you've got two assets instead of one. Is that part of the thing? I'm just trying to work out what's going on up here. Why are you doing this? Why Otis? What's the problem you're trying to solve, Brendan?
So, I mean, I guess when you're looking at business, right, risk mitigation, people are like, oh, you're in a different jurisdiction. That's cool. That's good, right? And it's a good jurisdiction, excellent rule of law, and actually a very clear permitting process. If you follow the rules, do the right work, it's one step, two step, and, things will happen as you expect. So that's good. But this is about opportunity. You've got risk and you've got opportunity. This is far more on the opportunity side, understanding that the risks are relatively minimal. Because when we look at the project, 35 kilometers of strike, that would almost cover the entire Fresnillo belt from Fresnillo down to Zacatecas. That's about 50 kilometers. This is 35 kilometers. Mm-hmm. So if you put that in there and turn the clocks back 150 years, just after the Spaniards were wrapping up, you've got one of the richest chunks of the Fresnillo silver belt. It's an absolutely special opportunity, and there's been no exploration since the 1870s for precious metals. Okay, so let's talk about some of the numbers then. Okay, so how much did you pay? So it's an option agreement over 3 years.
So what's that cost you?
$500,000 Canadian in 3 payments over the 3 years, and $1.6 million Canadian in shares of Excellon. So $2.1 million total consideration Canadian. Very reasonable deal for sure. And
what are your obligations in terms of, what are your other obligations, financial?
So at the end of the exercise of the option, there's a 3% royalty on precious metals and a 2.5% royalty on base metals, each of which, or we can buy them down collectively for a payment of $1 million US, which is so go down to 1% and 2% precious and 1.5% base. And then there's an exploration bonus, but relatively, a discovery bonus and a resource bonus, relatively small amounts. In terms of work commitments, there's no work commitments under the option agreement. We do negotiate work commitments under the exploration license with the regulator. For this year, they're around 500,000 Canadian. Next year, around 500,000 Canadian, and $1 million Canadian in the third year. So very manageable, and certainly with success, we're going to be spending a lot more than that. Well, this year, we will spend around $1 million on the project.
Right. Okay. Over and above in terms of your allocation of people's time on it, or collectively?
So $4 million in Mexico, and $1 million in Germany.
Got it. Understood. Sorry, I wasn't clear on that one.
The thing is, we've got tons of talent there. So, Ben, he has people in Mexico. Jorge Ortega, our exploration manager down there, really manages the country effectively, and we're developing a team in Saxony as well.
Okay. Well, I'll be interested to see how that develops this year. Okay. Now the bit you want to talk about. Otis, you've done it yesterday. You made the announcement. I've got the press release here. Why'd you do it? It's not silver, it's gold.
Yep.
Do you know anything? What do you know?
You strip it back. What's our job? To create wealth, right? So it's when you do that, you're not like tied into ideologies effectively, right? It's really about generating returns for shareholders and the community and our employees and the whole kind of continuum of the business. And it's really founded on, if we were in 2013 and gold had tumbled from 1900 down to 1600, in April 2013 going down to 1300 or 1400, this wouldn't be the time to do this kind of deal. You weren't in the right part of the market. So we're very much market focused and market trend driven. And I think that's the important part of the industry. There's times to buy, there's times to sell, there's times to hold, there's times to explore, there's times to build, right? I didn't put that in the right order, but there is different aspects that need to be done at different parts of the market cycle. Right now, we firmly believe we're back in a precious metals bull market. And that wasn't like, over the past couple of weeks with the horrors that are happening with the coronavirus and everything. This is from May last year when gold moved through 1375 through 1400 and it was game on, right? Silver is trailing, of course, but gold, it's game on. So that's why we bought this now. But what it does is it increases our precious metals or total resource base by 450%. That's just on M&I. It's more when you include inferred. The inferred goes up by 6,000%. And importantly, it switches our mix of base metals. Our mix of metals. So right now we're 50% silver and 50% base metals. After this transaction, we're over 90% precious metals. So that's a very important switch as well. Continuing on, it completes our growth pipeline. We have production, we had exploration, a big portfolio there. Yeah. Now we've got an excellent development project in the middle.
Fantastic.
So really that improvement as well as having the torque that you have from exploration.
Got it.
And that's what.
Got it. So if I may interrupt, okay, you've got the blend of production, development, exploration. You've changed the mix from the 50-50 from base versus precious to 90-10. It's great. So you're making all the right moves. I think the interesting thing that you said there was the fact when you started the conversation about gold, it was before gold started moving. So it suggests some foresight there. So this wealth that you're going to create with Otis, what's the cost of the wealth that you're going to create? So what's it cost you? How much are you going to have to spend, and how much focus are you going to give it?
Yeah, so with Otis as well, we're adding their exploration or VP exploration to the team. Mm-hmm. He lives in that part of the world. Mm-hmm. Great guy, Alan Roberts, trained at Randgold, so experienced all over the world. Very obsessed with this project. It's a great project, right? So the goal is keep on the focus on stabilizing Plateau, start generating cash flow from there. Yeah. With Kilgore, again, the Otis asset, right now it's about doing the studies in support of another PEA or an updated PEA over the next while, doing the exploration to grow the resource. Right now, the PEA provides for 81 million of capital for 5 years of mine life at 110,000 ounces gold a year at an all-in sustaining cost of around $830. It's a very nice project. At $1,500 gold, it's a 53% IRR. and 185 million NPV at 5%. So
Okay.
very quality project,
Yeah.
but we're not building that quite yet. It's still in the study stage, so it's not going to cost a ton of money. What we do want to do there, though, is look at the bigger opportunity, and that fits into our exploration and discovery portfolio. There is what we look at Kilgore. It's like a Round Mountain analog. So Round Mountain is a mine that Kinross has been operating for years. It's been in production since 1977, has produced 14 million ounces over that period. So an exceptional deposit down in Nevada. This is a very similar kind of geology. Now, Round Mountain at surface, you've got 0.5 gram oxide, but as you get to depth, much higher grades. And here, there's a series of drill holes which really haven't been followed up on. A number of them have actually ended in mineralization. We're talking like 95 meters at 4.2 grams, 30 meters at 5 grams. A series of these holes. So it's really chasing that Round Mountain opportunity. That fits into our bigger exploration play perfectly. And that's from Plateau looking for a big CRD to Silver City looking for a new epithermal district to Evolucion, on the continuation of the Fresnillo silver trend. And now this is part of the game as well. But again, on that kind of stuff, it's intelligent exploration, doing your science from the start. Drilling is the last thing you do to prove the theory and then define the asset, right? But we take every single aspect of geophysics, of geology, and I'm getting too far down the geological wormhole here. I'm a geologist, not a geologist. But it is like kind of really painting the whole picture of what the opportunity is before you spend the significant capital on drilling and then grid drilling to define.
Okay, so let's get back to my question, which was how much money are you going to need to spend? Because I think you've got 5 million left. 4 million is going to Mexico, 1 million Germany. You told me you've got 10. You've got 5 million left. Is all that going into Otis, or are you going to raise additional money to develop this wealth that you're talking about?
Right. So first is that as we turn Plateau around, that will start generating cash flow, which will take a lot of the burden off and cover kind of.
But that's towards the end of the year, isn't it? That's what you said. How do you allocate money now?
So I think one of the things is, and the reason we're doing these things now, is that it's a different market, right? In this market, people are paying for exploration. If you really look at the money raised since January 2019, $1.7 billion, something like 70 or 75% of it went into exploration. And why? Because that's where the greatest returns are. Like, we're finally back, and it happened, I think in 2018, you could see discoveries and stocks would just fly and go up 10 times, 20 times, right? And in this market, when you look at, say, a Silvercrest or a Great Bear, incredible returns on the market for incredible assets that have been funded from the market. So if you have the right thesis and the right, focus, that money is there. And that's the difference of the market we're in versus the market we were in, even last year and certainly 2 or 3 years ago.
Well, I think that's the case if you're able to articulate your model. Like I say, Great Bear, great example. And there are other business models that we've looked at and explored, and CEOs who've been able to articulate it. But, I say 50-60% of CEOs go, we're just going to drill holes. So that's their thesis, right? Which is maybe the right thing to do, but it's hard for investors to then differentiate between companies and see which ones they should target. So I've enjoyed listening to your thesis, as it were, today. But like I say, so on Otis, your idea is to just sit back and evaluate what you've got. You've got a PEA, which is, it's the start of a process. So what are you going to be doing this year in terms of, is a PFS on the card this year?
So I think the first thing is improving our studies and understanding of the project. And those studies are going to move towards an advanced or an improved PEA or PFS ultimately. Now, we haven't closed the acquisition yet, so we're not talking about timeframes yet. That's
sure.
Give us a month or a few months on that till we put the timeframes. Put a timeframe for the timeframe. But the ultimate goal here is, from what we have right now, very solid base, great PEA, great NPV and IRR, but really growing a resource that supports a 10-year mine life at 100,000 ounces a year. That's something that's very accessible by the market, by analysts, and something that you want to build. as well at the same time looking for that bigger opportunity, the multi-million ounce deposit. And that's why Agnico is a shareholder. I'm sure we'll talk about shareholders as well.
Yeah, we are.
It is a bigger opportunity that has to be part of the focus as well.
So, okay, that's a good point you raised. So you haven't yet closed it. What's the timing on that?
So we announced the transaction yesterday on February 24th. We will be mailing materials in mid-March, mid to late March at the latest, and aiming to close in mid to late April.
Okay, you didn't get much of a market reaction when you made the announcement. I'm just trying to read around chat rooms and forums. People don't seem to understand why you're doing it.
People don't like change, and certainly we've been Mexico's highest grade silver producer for a long time. But our stated vision.
But you got to make money, though, haven't you? You can't. It's all well and good having high grades, but you're not making money. It's no good to anyone, is it?
Yeah, I think one of the key things is looking at the silver space right now. Silver has been trailing gold significantly over the past long time now. In an 89-to-1 silver to gold ratio. What we're doing here is buying. It goes back again to that, multiplying our asset base and moving into precious metals. Lead and zinc, certainly in the global economy and everything right now, are not the place to be making money.
Yeah.
Especially when you've got treatment charges, increasing year over year now. We had incredibly low treatment charges for a period 3 to 5 years ago, and now they're kind of back to the historical norm. But metal prices are coming down, so you just have that, margin getting crushed. So this is an asset that we're buying with, producing paper, right, to buy an asset in the ground that we think has great value in it. And one of the things that, when we look at the market now as well, the junior developers that aren't financed, right, they've just very much underperformed the market. The finance developers have flown. They're up 63% in 2020. The senior producers have skyrocketed, right? They're up 30-40% for these big companies. That's a big move. And that's what you would expect to see at this point in the market. When you look at, you compare this market to 2002 to 2011, 570% returns over that period. For us, since 2016 to now, it's around 48% return. So we're really in the early days of that market, and we're seeing exactly what we would expect to see in the early days of a new bull market, right? The money first starting to go into seniors, the generalist money going into seniors. What we've seen, which I really like, is the money going into explorers for discoveries, mostly it's post-discovery. But if you don't have the development money, it's a little bit tricky to get right now. So this combination increases our size, makes us more financeable from a development and exploration perspective, and really kind of completes the story and sets us up to really ride this new bull market.
Do those treatment guys make money?
Ooh, it's a good gig.
Just an idea. You can have that. Right.
You got to build a smelter though, right? That's the
just buy it. Just buy one.
Be the trader. The man in the middle is always good too.
I know a guy. Okay, let's talk about some of these shareholders. You've got some big names in there. Okay, so Eric Sprott, Agnico. How involved are they? I know they're shareholders. Okay, let's start with the easy one. So Agnico, did they own one of these assets before? Why are they in here? Have they actually put hard cold cash in?
Yeah, so Agnico invested $5 million in Otis in 2017, and they did it because they see this opportunity in Kilgore.
So it's option money, right?
Not option money. This is money to go into the ground to define a 3 to 5 million ounce deposit.
It's option money.
They've done that.
It's option money for them. It's nothing. So why aren't they doing this themselves?
Because if you look at the way that Agnico operates, and again, this is secondhand knowledge because I'm coming in, and we have to develop that relationship with Agnico as a shareholder and hopefully significant backer. But they look at projects that do have that potential, so they do a lot of diligence before they put in money. This is not high card money. It's not throwing chips on the table. This is extensively researched. We know this asset, and we want to put money in. The interesting thing is the guy who did that for Agnico, or led the initiative at the time, Mike Timmons, who was their VP Corporate Development, he's actually joining the board of the combined company. So when he learned that we were acquiring Otis for Kilgore, he said, "Oh, I got to be involved in this. This is something I want to, further this idea on that Agnico started a couple of years ago.
Okay, so that's interesting. Like, and what you like, I sort of jest there, but when I say it's option money, it's like you're one of 20, 30 companies they'll throw $5 million at. Okay, so if one of them comes off big, they make their money back. So in that sense, it's option money. So at what point do they work out what you've got and whether they come in for the next round of cash or however the relationship works?
I think like the option money, it's not really about making their money back. It's really about finding things that they can acquire, right? They're looking for new mines, whether it's in Mexico, whether it's in North America.
That's what I meant, yeah.
It's not just a trade, right? It's research and development in the furtherance of a new invention, which they can buy and put into production.
Yeah, but you appreciate, we talk to exploration companies all the time who've got money in from the big players who've spread the cash, spread the love, as I say, in the hope of finding the next, global, big scale project. So, okay, I understand about Agnico. Let's come to the interesting bit for me, which is Eric Sprott. He's in. When his name is associated with a project, it usually means the project's going to work. Whether the project's any good or not is another matter. So, when did he come in, and what's he going to do for you?
Really, like the trade is going to work, right? His market sense and his ability to see opportunity is almost.
Absolutely.
So he came in. He's been a long-term supporter of Excellon since long before I joined the company, right? And that was originally through Sprott Asset Management, right? Which is Sprott Asset Management is still a shareholder. Eric's retired. It's run separately, but he started putting money in personally in April 2016, so he put money in at 45 cents then, at $3 million, $3 million in a private placement then. We put another $7 million or so in a public offering in July of 2016, and then invested again in 2017 and 2019. Okay. So he's been a long-term supporter, and he's timed the market well in terms of when he's put money in as well.
So what's his involvement? I mean, do you get that phone call once a month going, "What's going on, Brendan?" No,
best shareholder you could ever have. Like, he really is. Like, he's very, very supportive of pretty much every company that he's in. Yeah. And for us, on presenting this Otis deal, he was happy to sign a support agreement, which was obviously a huge benefit to the transaction.
Okay. Well, look, great story. I like the model. You're going to be bouncing around PDAC next week.
Yeah.
Better you than me.
That card's filling up. All right.
That's good news. That's good news. And are people? What's your sense of the market reaction when you put the Otis press release out? Were you getting inbound phone calls? And what were they saying?
Yeah, it's been a busy day. We've got, I think it's a little bit of a difference. Some of our shareholders like, why are you doing this? But when we present it to the market and kind of the funds that are invested in the company, and they're like, this is a great move. This is the kind of jurisdictional diversification that actually is good. We're going into Idaho. You've got Excellon Resources there, Midas Gold, Liberty Gold, Revival Gold, right? We're kind of getting into that really re-emerging gold district. So it is a great jurisdiction to get into, so the institutional money is now much more interested in Excellon than it was last Friday, right? Because there is a much better asset base. There's a complete growth pipeline. You can see Plateau moving into gold production over the next 3 to 5 years. So it is a much more integrated story from that big money perspective.
So what are you hoping the share price does? Because it's been fairly erratic for the last 18 months, mainly because it's silver focused. With this gold acquisition, would you hope to see a slightly more steady state, or do you think you'll kind of get that appreciation from the marketplace?
I think we are, for sure. And one of the important parts of this transaction is it's a really, there's a market strategy to it as well. As at the closing of the transaction, we're going to do a share consolidation, and we're going to apply to list on the New York Stock Exchange, the NYSE American.
Yeah, sorry, I meant to ask you. Give me, what do you think that's going to do for you, apart from, I guess, open up a new investor base, but how do you think the guys back on the TSX are going to feel?
I'm more concerned about how my shareholders feel than the stock exchange, but different conversation, I think. But I think like the important, or you mean the shareholders on the TSX?
I do mean the shareholders on the TSX.
they're going to get, a lot more money coming into the stock, a lot more liquidity on the stock as well. I think if you look at any of our peer group, and that's from, say, Avino, which is in Mexico and has been a long time on the NYSE, America's Silver, and America's Gold and Silver now, moving there back in 2017 or so. Most recently, Metalla Royalties and Equinox Gold. So both of them did this exact strategy. They did a 5 or 6 to 1 consolidation, got that $2 US share price, but really over $5. That proved very effective as well, and saw within a month to 3 months 20 to 40% returns. And I mean, like, the reaction was immediate. On announcement of the application, these companies started moving, and you can just see the liquidity pick up significantly. So again, it's prepping for this precious metals bull market. We're at the early days now, but as more generalist interest starts filtering down to the less senior companies, being on that exchange is just going to open up a lot more investor base, a lot more liquidity, and that's for the benefit of all our shareholders, whether it's retail or the biggest funds.
Okay. Brendan, thanks very much for telling us that story. Like I said, I like the business model. You got a bit of work to do in Mexico, and come back to market and tell them how things are going there. Take care of what's happening at home, and then with the exploration and development, and Otis obviously sounds exciting times in terms of that diversified portfolio approach. Thanks very much. Do stay in touch. Let us know how you're getting on. Okay.
Sure, sounds good. Thank you for having me.